Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology, creator of the Salesology prospecting method, and I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. Today, my very special guest is Andy Culligan. He is a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. His company is andyculligan.com. And in addition, Andy is the CEO and founder of Purple Path, which is a new venture. So I'll be asking him about that as well. Andy, he's a marketing leader with a sales mindset. He excels in aligning marketing and sales teams to drive revenue growth. At andyculligan.com, he helps fast-growing SaaS startups achieve commercial success through strategic alignment. With nearly a decade of experience in SaaS martech, Andy has built and led teams to success, making him the go-to CMO resource at a fraction of the cost. So welcome, Andy.
Thanks, Wendy.
Okay. So let's begin where I always begin, which is at the beginning. How did you come to found andyculligan.com and become a fractional chief marketing officer?
By accident is the quick answer to that, but the long answer is I started my career as a seller. So I was an SDR, if you're familiar with the SDR, probably BDR, SDR. So bottom rung of the ladder, basically, the kindergarten of sales organization. And same as yourself, I would see myself as somebody that'd be relatively good with cold calling as well. I wouldn't call myself the king of cold calling now, like you call yourself the queen of cold calling, but cold calling was something that would come quite natural to me because when I was growing up in my career as a seller, it was almost 20 years ago now, and we didn't have many other options but to pick up the phone or send an email. We didn't have things like voice notes you could leave on LinkedIn and just, general social outreach, things like that. But I started as a seller, went all the way through the sales functions, and then I ended up then working for a multinational, and I wanted to get back into marketing, so I went into marketing and did digital marketing, but also with a focus on marketing automation. And from there, I worked in that space for a number of years, and then went into tech. So I've been in tech now for over 10 years. So mostly focus on B2B technologies, right? And as you mentioned in the intro, in SaaS, so software as a service. But not primarily that, not only that, like we also offer some other services, but a lot of my experience is in the SaaS space. That's where I've done most of my progression within my career. And I started working for a company called Emarsis, and Emarsis were then subsequently bought by SAP, who everybody knows, but I helped build Emarsis's marketing team back when I first came on board, and we had received quite a lot of funding. We're a European company, and had received quite a bit of funding to go into the US. And so I learned a lot of mistakes in terms of, because we had enough money to be able to make a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot about the US market then. So I knew already quite a bit about European market, being based in Europe. And I'm Irish, but I'm actually based in Austria. So not only did I have the experience of working in UK and Ireland, but in my career, but I then living in DACH, which I've been living in DACH now so DACH is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I've been in this market now for 16 years. I've been living here for 16 years. So with that, I'd already had the experience with focusing on the DACH market as well. But then I got more experience in going into the US. And with that, consequently, I was brought over to a new organization whereby I then managed to grow the marketing team from scratch and quadrupled that revenue within the space of 2 years, and then went from a VP of marketing up to a CMO at another company called Lead Feeder. And I was with the CMO lead feeder for a number of years as well. And managed to grow that company very rapidly as well. And at the end of that journey, it was just at the end of COVID. I was very tired, to be very honest with you. I had a young family, I still have a young family, and I was spending my entire time working, and I had a small enough team, and it like the fun was never stopping, let's say. And I needed a break, and I decided to step away from Lead Feeder back in 2021, and because I knew if I kept going at the pace I was going at, I was subsequently going to burn out. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to call it quits now. Quit while I'm ahead. We managed to achieve quite a lot. And what I did then was I just sort of said, oh, I want to take a bit of a break. And then people started to find out, hey, Andy's maybe looking for work, or he's left Lead Feeder. Hey, let's see if he wants to come work for us full time. And basically what I kept on saying is like, no, but I'll come and help. And that sort of turned into like a couple of gigs here and there where people were like, hey, I'll give you a hand and see what happens. And so two of those companies that I started working with back in 2021, they're still customers of mine now, you know. So it was only 6 months into doing what I was doing that it was like, oh, actually there's a business model in this somewhere. And I was introduced by one of the companies that I was working with. I was on a board meeting because I was stepping in as their CMO / chief revenue officer as well. So I was actually CRO. So I was managing both the sales and marketing teams. And they said, oh, this is our fractional CMO / CRO, Andy. And I was like, oh, that's what I am. So that's how it came about to be like this fractional thing. And since then it's been growing, that I've managed to build a team up around me of like fractional experts. So people that have over 20 years experience working across multiple different companies. And now with that, we've started to see like a big gap in the market for expertise, especially in SaaS. So, and people also, companies want to cut back on costs a little bit. So I bring in a team of experts that have over 20 years experience in their specific field, at a fraction of the cost of what it would be to bring in a full-time team. And it's also risk-free, or not completely risk-free, obviously, but it's a lot less risky than taking on full-time employees. And that's how we came about to the Purple Path piece, which is not just Andy, it's an entire team. So, and for various elements in the marketing and sales mix. So I'll take a breath there, Wendy. I'm sorry about that. I gave it a short answer at the beginning, which was I started it by mistake, but now you know how it sort of really came about.
Now we know the whole story. Absolutely. You could be here in New York City with me. We talk really fast too. So I have to ask you, because I read on your LinkedIn profile that you're a sales guy trapped in a marketer's body. And I'm wondering, I happen to be a blonde trapped in a brunette's body, but I'm sure it's not quite as intense. But could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like I love selling, right? I get a great thrill out of selling. Like so with the agency now, I'm our chief seller as well. It comes natural to me in a way. Like I first of all, I enjoy it, but second of all, I also have the experience in it. So as I mentioned, I started my career as an SDR and then went into account management before going into marketing. So I studied marketing. I studied marketing management, did a degree in that, and got a bachelor in marketing management. But then I went straight into sales. And prior to that, like all the way up through my teenage years, odd jobs and that, I was always doing sales. Like I was doing things like I sold gym memberships on the street in Dublin for commission when I was like 20, right? Like the name a really bad sales job, and I've likely done it at some point, right? But it was fun, you know. I think selling is fun, and I think it comes natural to me. Either you have it or you don't, you know. And I have it when it comes to sales. So yeah, that's what I mean with that. Like my first focus was always sales, and then I did the marketing degree, and then it just sort of went into marketing there. But I understand both sides of the coin.
Okay. Well, you had a post on LinkedIn that I absolutely loved. It was a couple years old, but I'm just going to read the headline. Uh, it goes like this: Yo, SDRs, telephones, use them daily. And I love that. So, but let me ask you this, because one of the things that I see a lot and I hear a lot is marketing and sales. They don't communicate, and marketing sends leads to sales, and the sales team goes like, I'm not dealing with that. Like, what's that? And so I know one of your areas of expertise is putting teams in alignment, sales and marketing. So can you give us some do's and don'ts about aligning sales teams?
Yeah, sure. Sales and marketing teams together are things like, okay, a do is communicate, a don't is not communicate. Like that's like the number one thing I think is actually just talking to one another. So normally when I come into an organization, I'll speak with the head of marketing and then start ask them, okay, how often are you sitting with your counterpart in sales? And a lot of the times it's like, well, never really. Or if you go down amongst the general populace in a marketing team and ask them, okay, when have you gone to sit down with a seller and understand what's happening on their side of things? What are the things that they're discussing with prospects, etc.? Typically, you're going to hear, oh, I don't do that. So like that's the first place to start because people are always like, oh shoot, how do we like align sales and marketing, etc. It's like it's pretty simple to start with. You just start talking to one another. Like that's a lot where teams actually get it wrong. They just don't communicate with one another. The issue is as well that marketers don't typically they don't want to be the first ones to push it. They're going to have to be the first ones to push it. Sellers don't care. They're going to be out trying to sell, right? That's the nature of the beast there. Like if you want to push this relationship, it needs to be pushed from the marketing side. And as a marketer myself, I know like, oh, but the sales are always asking for stuff and they're always giving out about the stuff we send across and blah, 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 blah. It's always bitching and moaning. I would say, okay, just get focused on making sure that you create a tight relationship there. So that when a seller needs something, they're not creating it themselves. They're coming to you and just saying, hey, can you maybe help me with this, Andy? And then you're able to help them with it. Because otherwise, what you're going to end up with is marketing done by sellers, which is something that you're going to be upset about as a marketer because, first of all, it's probably not going to be on brand, on message, on point, whatever. And second of all, you have already worked on something that they're probably not using because they've already created something else themselves, which is quite a common thing, right? The other thing I would say is also like helping sellers understand what the expectations are from both sides. So it's an expectation setting exercise. So a lot of the times when I'd sit down with sales or account executives or SDRs, so sales development reps, younger members of the team, especially those that are being asked to follow up with leads that marketing are bringing in. Right. So let's say marketing run campaigns and those campaigns are delivering email addresses from people that have downloaded ebooks or have come to people that have come to a webinar or people that have come to an event. A lot of the time you hear from sales when you hand those across, like, what the hell am I supposed to do with these? These aren't people asking, these aren't people telling me to shut up and take my money. Like this is, I need to work this. This is not good. I was like, well, the expectation from me here is, guys, that you guys need to go try to create some form of relationship here with these leads. We'll also do the same thing from a marketing perspective. We'll also nurture them, but I can fling a load of emails at these people and they'll never react. But if you start connecting with them on LinkedIn, you start doing some social selling towards them, then it's the potential of being able to make a connect and create a relationship there is much higher than anything I can do in the marketing side. I'll continue to target them. Don't get me wrong. But with that, you find that says, okay, I now understand, like, it's the expectation is not that we're going to be bowling you over with like the likes of demo requests or contact us form requests or, they'll shut up and take my money. It's more like, okay, we need to start trying to build a relationship with our prospect together. Marketing will give air cover. Sales will also do their outreach. And it's a lot of the times it's the difference between a seller calling an account and hearing, hi, this is Andy calling from andyculligan.com and getting an answer from the seller or from the person, from the prospect saying who from where to who from, oh yeah, I've heard of andyculligan.com because I downloaded something or I was on a webinar or whatever. We're there just to make life a little bit easier on that outreach or that outbound. It's not like we're not delivering fully fledged opportunities to your desk. There's like a work that needs to happen back and forth. And at the same time as well, the sellers don't particularly know how much we're actually paying for these things that we're actually delivering on their desk. Is a slight bit warmer than what you're getting from an outbound perspective. So I might be dropping leads in your desk that are $100 a piece, $200 a piece, right? And you might be automatically ignoring, I don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to go to my cold outreach list and start cold calling people that have no idea who I am or what company I'm calling for. from. That to me is crazy because, first of all, we spent, I don't know, thousands of dollars on this list of people that have had some interaction with our brand. They're a couple of degrees warmer than your complete cold list. So why aren't you going after the half warm list? And those type of things like would be conversations that I would have with sellers like, oh, okay, I didn't realize. Like, I didn't realize that we're spending money on this every time. And the way the analogy I use is, okay, let's take some of the company's money, or let's take $200, let's put it in a bin and turn it on fire. That's basically what you're doing if you're not doing anything with these leads in a timely manner. And it's like, oh, shoot, actually, okay, I should probably take a look at it. So like, but week in, week out, having those conversations, bringing them through what we're doing from a campaign perspective so that they understand the messaging we're using, et cetera, et cetera. But it needs to be highly pushed from the marketing side. And that's how I get the teams aligned.
Okay, well, I like what you're saying about communication. I'm wondering where a clear definition, a clear agreement and definition of what the word lead means happens, because that to me is a lot of the disconnect. Marketing sends over what they consider to be leads, and the sales team looks at it and goes, that's not a lead. So I think we have to have a clear definition of what we're talking about.
That's in the expectation setting. So that's exactly there. So like, as I mentioned, like sales thinking that these are demo requests to shut up and take my money, immediate opportunity things, versus marketing saying, no, these are actually just a degree warmer than something that's completely cold. Right. So, but it's as long as you make that clear in those initial conversations, the people are all aware, as you said, having proper definitions around what a lead is makes perfect sense.
Okay. So can you give us some before and after examples? Tell us some stories, some success stories.
Sure. So let me think. So there's a number of organizations that I have worked. So let me start with some of the full-time organizations that I would have been with. So when I was with an organization a number of years ago, I also took on I was a CMO at the business, and I took on the SDR team under me as well. So it wasn't just the marketing team, but also the SDR team. The way that I seen it was that SDRs are the next step in a marketing front towards prospects, right? Because they're like the face of the brand. So you have digital touch points, and then you have human touch points, and the human touch points are the SDR force, right? And I just thought it would be a lot easier to take on that team and be able to get them more aligned within the marketing team and have them part of the marketing team, have some element of them join within our marketing calls, etc., so that they fully understand exactly what marketing have to offer, right? And with that, I also took a bit of pressure off the head of sales, who was trying to run an account executive team that were very focused on closing. So what we did was, myself and the head of sales, the CRO, the chief revenue officer, had like an agreement whereby he's a closer, or his team are closing, and my team is opening. And my team, being marketing and SDR working together, where our target was based on pipeline creation. So how much million in pipeline we need to create in order to fulfill our goals in the next whatever quarter, year, whatever it might be. And we held up our end of the deal. They held up their end of the deal. And what we made sure of was that we were delivering enough pipeline in order to hit our business targets, which we managed to do. At the same time, I also, with the head of sales, or the CRO, managed to create compensation packages, which were not just based on pipeline creation for the SDR team, but also based on those opportunities or those meetings that they delivered over to the AE team, which then turned consequently into opportunities, and then into closed won business. That the SDR also got a taste of that like a commission on those closed deals. The reason why I did not just the pipeline created as a target, but also somewhat on the closed deals, even though they weren't able to influence that a huge amount, was just to make sure that the SDR team and whatever marketing was doing was bringing in the right types of businesses that we could do business with that will actually end up as closing customers. So to give them more of an incentive to bring in more. And at the same time, what happened with that was was that the sales team were like, oh, shoot, actually, these guys are making our lives a lot easier. They're booking meetings with our ideal customer, and marketing is then targeting our ideal customer as well. So we had like this nice flow that was also coming from the sales back into marketing as well, that was telling us, okay, these accounts have got into an opportunity stage. We want to go target the heck out of these accounts. So marketing then helped speed up the velocity within the once an opportunity opened. But at the same time, they also said they also worked together with the SDRs, the sellers, to build account lists. Then the SDRs then passed those account lists back to the marketing team. The marketing team targeted those account lists. That brought in inbound leads into those SDRs. The SDRs worked them. SDRs booked meetings, hand them back over to the sales team. Sales team then worked them, got them up to opportunity. Marketing then targeted those opportunities and helped the sellers close quickly. That was one example of success.
Okay. I'd love to see a diagram of that. Maybe when we go to podcasts in video.
Sure.
So how do you scale something like this? Where do you start?
So that's a good question. So first of all, you need to start what the company level target is. So I think you need to look at, okay, what are our growth targets for the next year or for the next period of time? Typically, let's talk about it on a yearly basis. And for 2025, right now, you should know what your target is for next year. If you don't already, you're already late. I'd get on it, right? So I know that my business wants to grow by X, and that means this in revenue. Okay. Based off that, then what I'm going to start to do is calculate backwards. What do I need to create in order to get to that specific goal, right? And then I'll go up a rung from there. It's like, okay, if I know the amount of pipeline that I need to create in order to hit a target of X. So let's say, for example, I need to, just for argument's sake, I need to close $10 million in revenue next year. In order for me to close $10 million in revenue, I need to have 5x coverage in my pipeline. What does that mean? It means that I need to be having open opportunities 5 times what I have in the 10 million, which would mean I need to have 50 million in pipeline in order to create 10 million in sales, right? That gives me a 20% conversion rate from opened opportunity to closed opportunity. From there, I'm going back up the funnel from there. So I'm essentially creating this funnel. It's like, how many opportunities do I need to get the number of opportunities that you need? You need to then look at your average deal size, divide that into the 50 million. So let's say, for example, your average deal size is 5 million, which would mean if you need to close 10 million next year, you'd need to close 2 deals. 50 million in pipeline would mean that you need to have 10 open deals throughout the year in order to get there. And then you know that from the meetings that you're booking, maybe 50 or 60% of those turn into pipeline. So then you need to go up another level, which means you need to double the 50. So it means you need to have 100 meetings in order to get there, and blah, 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 all the way down. And then I'd be looking at, okay, how can I attribute that to, or how can I maybe break that down per region? So if I'm operating in a global perspective or across multiple regions, I can then break down those targets even further to say, hey, in North America and Canada, I want to grow by X, which means that this amount of that 10 million is going to come from North America and Canada. And then I can go build a program around that. And the same goes across all of your different regions. So if you're going after Europe, I would split into a couple of different geos, right? We don't need to get into that now, or UK and Ireland, etc. So break it down into your geos, come up with a specific plan against each of those different geos, right? And then know that you have the team behind it to then go focus. So the point is, the first step is to have the team have a focus and a target so that they know exactly where they need to aim towards. Because I see so many businesses not have a target, right? And then the next point after that is to build a plan. And again, people say, oh, I have a plan in the back of my head, or a plan in the back of a cigarette box, whatever. But no, like you need to create a plan, have it in writing, have it in a doc, have it somewhere that's written that you're able to share with people so that you're able to go back to the plan and say, hey, have I managed to do the things that I've said that I wanted to do at the start of the year in my plan? What do I plan to do in Q1 to 4? And go from there. And like your question was around how to scale. It's like there are like tools and technology that you can of course use, but I wouldn't even get into that. And I know your audience here is small to medium sized businesses. So you can go really, really far with having targets in place, understand exactly where your North Star is, like which way are we moving. Let's try to break those targets down as best we can, and then have a plan against those targets. And by doing that, like you're already winning. Like you're already way ahead than most other businesses.
That is so true. So what I think I heard you say was start with the target and work it backwards.
100%.
Okay. Virtual gold star for me. So share with us, Andy, because you were telling me before we hit record for this podcast that you have a new venture, Purple Path. So tell us a little bit about Purple Path.
Sure. So as I mentioned, like the business started by accident, andyculligan.com, and the thing that I find really hard to scale, which would probably no surprise to you, is me. Like I'm not scalable, unfortunately, and people really wanted to work. Like people really wanted to work with me. They were reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Andy, do you have time? Would you be able to work with us?" And I was like, "I'd love to, but like my calendar is lit up like a Christmas tree at the moment, so I need to figure out a way in which I can try to bring others into other projects." And in the meantime, I'd already started to work with some people that I've worked with for a long time. They themselves turned into freelancers for various reasons. Some of them had opened up their own agencies offering other services. And I said, "Hey guys, like, do we maybe want to work on projects together?" And a couple of years back, we started to work on a couple of projects together. And it started to get more and more. So I said, okay, well, we need to create something here that's not andyculligan.com and it's not all via me. So over time, I'd be able to keep you guys and then also at the same time bring in other CMOs, right? So that's essentially what we're doing now is we're bringing in other CMOs as well as other members of the marketing team and sales team to help run projects. And it's not just all about me, right? And that's where we came up with Purple Path. And with Purple Path now, we work with a number of organizations globally. And the business is growing nicely. We officially started the agency back in September. But as I said, we'd already been working on some projects under my andyculligan.com name for 2 years. Prior to that, that's all moved over now to Purple Path. And we've signed some business since. So
okay. Well, congratulations. It sounds very exciting. So Andy, if people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
So best place to get me is on LinkedIn. If you don't get me on LinkedIn, which you will, but you can also check out Purple Path and purplepath.io, and you can also check out andyculligan.com.
Okay. So if you want to connect with Andy, the link to both of his websites, to Andy's LinkedIn profile, it's all in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on one of those links, connect with Andy, and you'll be really glad that you did. And thank you all for listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, with my special guest, Andy Culligan, who is the founder and fractional CMO of andyculligan.com, and also the CEO and founder of Purple Path. And if you have found value in listening to today's podcast, please think about one sales leader, one business owner, one entrepreneur, one head of sales, somebody that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast. And please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.